Talk of the day, unpopular opinion. Where the opinion may be unpopular, but the conversation is necessary. I'm your host, Uncle KG. I want to thank you for joining me today. So, all right, today, let's talk about, can you give too much grace? Can you give too much grace and being comfortable with being the bad guy? So, a lot of times you hear people say, hey, just cut them some slack, give them some grace, or, take it easy, or give it a chance, or, be optimistic, or what have you. We hear these phrases all the time, right? And that's okay. I do feel like you have to give grace. I do feel like you have to give people a chance. I do feel like, you have to be optimistic, right? My thing is, how long do we remain in that space? How long do we afford that award that person that grace? How long are we going to be optimistic about the situation when the reality of the situation has constantly presented itself over and over and over again? You can give too much grace. And some people will use that type of grace or the chances that you're giving them to manipulate you or the situation. And that's something that we have to understand. You can't keep giving grace to the point that now you allow yourself to be played. You can't give grace to now you allow yourself to the point where you're getting got. Don't let nobody play you or trick you off your spot. That's really what it comes down to. Some people can tell that you're giving them grace. Some people can tell that you are giving things a chance. And they will use that to continue to manipulate you or a certain situation. You can give too much grace. Some people actually believe that rules are meant to be broken. You have individuals in the world that think that rules are meant to be broken. You have individuals that go against the grain just for the sake of going against the grain. When you do have to question some things, but now it's like we done opened up Pandora's box and we just allowed everything. You cannot give too much grace. Do not give too much grace, because now you allow yourself to be manipulated into whatever space this person wants you in. Once you're given enough grace and you decide to make adjustments because you see it's to no avail, or you see that this person is playing you, or you allowing yourself to be in a particular space that you don't want to be, it's time to cut out the grace. And you got to be okay with being the bad guy. Just because what you decide to do is not popular does not make you the bad guy. This is unpopular opinion here. So we going to stand out like a sore thumb. Because you stand out, that don't make you the bad guy. Because you're not going to, with the flow of what everybody else is doing or conforming, that doesn't make you the bad guy. Because you're taking a stand for what's right, what's wrong, and what you believe in, doesn't make you a bad guy. Not if those are your actual opinions or certain ideologies or things or and beliefs that you live by. There's nothing wrong with being a bad guy. The decisions you make are not going to always be popular. But if you are the person that is giving grace, you also have to be the person that applies a fair and proper punishment. And what I mean is, if you keep giving somebody access to you, and with your time, with your energy, they wasting it. At a certain point, you got to cut that off. That's the punishment that I'm applying. That, you know what? Obviously, you're taking advantage of my time, my energy. You're wasting it. So no, I won't be a circus clown. Now the grace is cut off. Instead of being awarded grace, you forfeited it. If I tell my child don't do something, any one of my kids, if I tell either my daughter or my son, hey, don't do this, don't do that, and they continue to do it, at what point do I discipline them? Or do I keep affording or awarding that grace? You can't. If I award grace because they're children, I have to apply a fair and proper punishment once I feel like they should have known better by now. They have gotten this grace from me. I've tried to correct them several times. It's the same thing with adults. Once you give enough grace because somebody doesn't know you, because they're just not familiar with you, because this situation, even though you guys know each other, hasn't presented itself, this is all new. They don't know that this is offensive. They don't know that they weren't being considerate. They might not realize that they are showing that they're taking advantage of you. But once you let that be known, you gave a pass, you awarded grace, and they continue to repeatedly do the same thing over and over again, now you have to apply a fair and proper punishment. That's just what it is, plain and simple. If you are being cheated on, and all this person doing is saying, I'm sorry, I'm going to do better, I'm sorry, I'm going to do better, and they continuously go back and keep doing the same thing, at what point do you say, you know what, I'm not going to allow you to continue to do this to me? We're not going to keep singing the same old song and dance. Do not award too much grace. That's too heavy of a price to pay when it comes to yourself. If you tell somebody, hey man, I told you this in confidence and you went and spilled my business out in the streets. Oh man, I apologize. I didn't think it was that big of a deal, or I didn't know that should have been kept a secret, or you know what, I was just talking, man. That person, I didn't think they would tell anybody else. I only told one person. And this person continues to spill your business out in the streets. You have to apply a fair and proper punishment. You know what? I ain't talking to you about anything that I don't want heard. I'm not about to give you any personal information about myself because you're going to go out and spew that out in the streets. You cannot give too much grace. And when you decide to no longer give grace, people will look at you like you're the bad guy or act like you're the bad guy. That's another form of manipulation because you're not conforming to what they want at this point in time, because you're no longer awarding that grace that you once did before, because you're not doing what this person wants you to do or what's popular. Now you're the bad guy. You got to be okay with being a bad guy. That's in their eyes. Just because they say you're the bad guy doesn't mean you're the bad guy. They just upset that they can no longer manipulate the situation and get their way. That's all that is. So we got to stop being worried about how we're viewed by others to a degree and just worry about what's right. You have to have certain rules in place. Giving too much grace, you can allow somebody to hang themselves, and then that can also hang you, depending on the situation. You have to have certain rules in place. You have to. Without certain rules, it will be anarchy. Without you setting boundaries, it will be anarchy. Everybody will be just freelancing, doing whatever it is that they want to do, especially when it comes to you. So at a certain point, sit back and ask yourself, how long am I allowing myself to continue to get played like this? How long am I going to allow myself to continue to be taken advantage of? That's something that you have to ask yourself. You have to dig deep and look within. That's how we end up blowing up. That's how we end up, acting irrational. Because we've been holding this in, harboring this, giving all this grace to the point where now we can't take it anymore. And then we blow up. And now everybody's looking like, well, what's wrong with you? I can't believe he did that. I can't believe she did that. But they had no idea, because you didn't correct them, that they kept pushing your buttons the whole time. They didn't know that this was irritating you. They didn't understand that this was the problem, because you never tried to correct it. So obviously, give grace in the beginning, early on. But at the same time, when you're being taken advantage of, when you're being manipulated, you got to apply the fair and proper punishment. Depending on how egregious this has been, that determines the consequences that I give. So that's all I got for y'all today, man. Untalk of the day, unpopular opinion. Where the opinion may be unpopular, but the conversation is necessary. I'm your host, Uncle KG. I want to thank you for joining me today. Like, share, subscribe, comment. Till next time. Peace.